Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the wild, weird, and wacky world of the Word. Look at that sun coming right into my face right now. This is one grand and glorious day, so let's celebrate with our mug of coffee, see, because it's heavenly. And why is it heavenly? Well, my translation is, it's gourmet Lutheran coffee. Yeah, gourmet Lutheran because it was made by a Lutheran. Me. So that's what makes it gourmet Lutheran. Hey, but you know what? Do you see how I was playing with words right there? We can do that with the scriptures too. In fact, we have to do it with the scriptures because we often don't really know the essence of what's in those scriptures. And what am I talking about now? Well, our Bible is composed of writings that have been handed down to us that when you go way, way, way back to the original writings, what are they in? They're in ancient Hebrew, they're in ancient Greek, they're in ancient Aramaic, and then a little bit later as we get into the Middle Ages, they're in Latin. None of those languages that are spoken anymore. No, they're not spoken. They were written down and they were spoken at one time, but hey, we don't do that anymore. So now that we have them, how do we translate those into English in the most faithful way, faithful to what the authors intended us to hear? Well, that's where it gets a little wild, weird, and wacky because we don't often know. And we have a good example of that going on in our passage from Romans that's part of our Reformation readings this Sunday. Specifically, this part, it's Romans 3:19 through 28, and this is the important part. Now, apart from law, the righteousness of God has been disclosed, and it's attested by the law and the prophets, the righteousness of God through faith in Jesus Christ for all who believe. Okay, that is very important stuff. In fact, that's what Martin Luther hung on to and, in essence, based the Reformation that he started on these verses. Because, see, Luther was all tangled up in, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. Why? Because the law says you have to do this. The law says, what law? Well, the law that the Catholic canon had now put out to be done. Canon meaning not only the scriptures, but everything else that was declared from the hierarchy. So you have all those things saying, if you want to be a faithful Christian, this is what you gotta do. And he found himself trying to get all those things done, and he still felt like a piece of scum. Yeah, he did. He felt like he was a piece of scum, the scum of the earth. And all of a sudden he discovers this. And it's all wrapped up in that verse that it's through faith in Jesus Christ. And he hung on to that. And much of our Christianity today hangs on to that as well. But what are we hanging on to? That's what gets a little wild, weird, and wacky. Because that little phrase there, the faith in Jesus Christ, is in the genitive voice when you're looking at the ancient Greek that this is written in. It's called a genitive objective, or is it called the genitive subjective? Wait a minute. Objective, subjective. What difference does it make? Well, it actually makes quite a bit of difference. And it can make a big difference in your theological outlook as well. Now I really got you all up in arms and saying, hey, what are you talking about? Are you being crazy? Get away from that geeky stuff. Well, we can't get away from it because here's why. Okay, when you're talking about the genitive form, that's an objective genitive. It means it's what you believe into. Okay, you're believing in Jesus. Got that? My guard dogs, they're laying around over there right now, just kind of wandering around doing nothing, but I believe in them. Yeah, I believe that if somebody comes to attack me, they're going to go after them. And that could spell trouble for them, and it would spell salvation for me. All right, so I believe in them. I'm putting my trust in them. Okay, and that's one way that the objective genitive is used. But there's also the subjective genitive. It's written the same way. So you have to figure out how to translate it depending on everything else that comes around the writings there. And that would be the faith of Jesus. In other words, it's Jesus' faith that's doing it. His faithfulness, not mine. It's Jesus' faithfulness. You see the difference? In one, the emphasis is on me putting my trust in that direction. And the other direction is, no, it's God's faithfulness toward us through Jesus. So it's Jesus' faithfulness in what he did for us. It's a world of difference. Now, you might say, okay, what does that have to do with the Reformation and Luther and all that? Well, Luther viewed all this through the lens of the objective genitive, in which this was God's pronouncing judgment on us, okay? And what we have to do is put our faith in this very particular judgment call in which Jesus paid the penalty. Well, okay, we have to accept the fact that that's what happened. It's our acceptance that's at stake, and that's important. And is it important? You bet it's important. In fact, it's that way in a lot of different places in the Scripture. However, when you look at it with the subjective genitive form, now you realize that you know what? It's all about Jesus. It's all about his faithfulness, his coming to us and being faithful unto death on the cross. And that's what makes all the difference in our lives. And we live out that our belief in Jesus subsequently as we follow him in life. All right, so yeah, see, there is a bit of a difference there that can lead us in some different directions in our lives of faith. And there are those who say, hey, you know what? Maybe it's both and. It's not either or, it's both and. Personally, I like to take that road. Not that you're just kind of throwing your arms up and giving up and saying, oh, whatever way you want to look at it. No, I think the both and encompasses the full body of what's going on, and also the full body of what we read throughout the New Testament and in other early Christian writings. It can be a both and proposition. Not only that we put our trust in God, but that it's the faithfulness of God that brings us life and salvation. Yeah, it can be a little crazy. It can be a little goofy at times when we're working with these ancient languages, but sometimes it's just a matter of really looking at them and saying, which direction are we going to go? Let's go both ways. That's what I'm going to do today. So God's blessings be with you, and get out there and get those leaves raked on this wonderful, glorious day.